Here with us now is the man who whipped the votes, House Minority Whip Steve Scalise. Good to have you here, sir.
Good morning. Good to be with you.
All right. The big question here, how'd you do it?
Well, we worked nonstop to make sure that we built the coalitions, made the necessary changes in the bill to ultimately produce an even better bill that lowers premiums, protects people with pre-existing conditions, and ultimately lets people choose their own health care decisions. And you saw our conference come together, and clearly we have a lot of different factions within our conference, but they all had the same approach to wanting to really truly provide relief to people from Obamacare.
So we had Chris Direwall on the show earlier. We're asking him what's next and how this all breaks down in the Senate and then gets kicked back to you and committees. So it's great victory on Thursday for you. Then it gets kicked to the Senate. Then it's going to come back to you guys in some perhaps watered-down version, in Chris's words. And then it might get ripped apart. Do you see this sailing through? Will the president sign a bill this year that looks like the one we saw on Thursday?
This is what the legislative process is all about. You know, you look at any major piece of legislation that's ever been signed, it goes through the House, it goes through the Senate. If the Senate makes changes, it goes to a conference committee, and then we get it to the president's desk. And that's our goal. And again, the main objectives are, even if the Senate makes changes, they need to make sure they stay focused on the primary objectives, and that is lowering premiums for families, protecting people with pre-existing conditions, and giving people the freedom to actually make their own health care choices. That's what we did in this bill. I hope the Senate continues to build on that. And then Donald Trump's ready as president to sign a bill into law that finally frees people from the failures of Obamacare.
Congressman, as much as this is a policy fight, it's a perception and a messaging fight as well. You're already hearing Democrats say that it's death and pain and suffering and destruction is coming because of a bill like this if it gets passed. What's the biggest misconception? How are you going to push back on how this bill is framed?
Two biggest misconceptions. First of all, that people have good health care today. You look in Iowa next year, you will not be able to buy any health insurance if you're in the Obamacare marketplace because it's collapsed. There's literally nowhere to go. And the biggest one probably is on pre-existing conditions. And I would refer people to something we maintained in our bill. It's called continuous coverage. And what that means is whatever health care plan you have today, if you have a pre-existing condition, you can never be denied coverage, and you can never be charged a dime more, not any amount more, than anybody else in that plan. That's maintained, and that can't be waived by any state.
What does this mean for 2018? Is this going to cost you seats in the House?
I think this might gain us seats in the House because it means we followed through on our promises. People don't like Obamacare. And if anybody's surprised that we were going to try to repeal and replace Obamacare, it was a central figure in every campaign, including in the presidential race when Donald Trump as candidate said, I'm going to repeal and replace Obamacare, and Hillary Clinton said she'd keep it.
Congressman Steve Scalise, we appreciate you joining us this morning.